Hi, Damon. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
It's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you too for being here. And you see, oftentimes, Damon, I love to thank my guests for two main things. So firstly, Damon, I want to thank you for investing in yourself. And you see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, Damon, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves weren't green, it was all dry, and I just walked past it. But you see, Damon, just recently, I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot has changed. Because the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And instantly I got the urge to move closer and have a good look, man, Damon. You see, the moment I got closer, it wowed me. Because this time around, the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, and beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And you see, not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. It was a beautiful moment for me that day. I kept on staring and staring and staring at the beauty of the tree. It was amazing. Now, the point is the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today. That alone has made it pretty hard for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show. And you see, I was attracted to the fruit of your work. Okay, the fruit of your philosophies and your insight and all that you're doing. It's amazing. And here you are today, myself and the audience now. We're about to benefit from all that you've done and that you're doing. So thank you so very much for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you so very much for being here. I truly appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Elijah, that's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, dude. Okay, let's get started. Say, Damon, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to move from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. And you see, not just knowledge, but the application of it. And ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking, Damon, because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Damon on the show is for the sake of the listeners. Damon, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of informations flying out there. So these folks trust me for life-changing, eye-opening, and quality information. And I'm totally convinced, Damon, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious right now. We want to know how Damon got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Damon, over to you.
Well, Elijah, what I like what you said is that, you can attain knowledge, but you really need to do something with it, to execute on it, right? Because you can keep learning, but you got to be able to implement it. So I think that's wonderful. And it's kind of what I'm all about. So my name is Damon Lembi. I live out here in San Francisco, California, and I growing up, all I wanted to do was be a professional baseball player. So I set all my sights on becoming a professional baseball player. It turned out pretty well for me. I went all in, and in high school, I was a high school All-American, and I got an opportunity to either go play minor league baseball or professional baseball. My parents were great. They said, "This is your life. It's your choice." So I went the route of college, and it was my first really big leadership lesson. My coach was this famous coach called named Andy Lopez. And he had this moonshot goal that Pepperdine was a little small school, 2,500 people. And he said, we're going to win the College World Series. We're going to build a great team and we're going to win the College World Series. Now, I was 17 years old, and for the first time in my life, I experienced imposter syndrome, and I'm fine with going back and talking about that. I got a framework I built on that. I ended up getting hurt and leaving, and went to a different college. But the year I left, Elijah, they won the College World Series. So it shows you that you can set big goals and hit them. And I ended up playing at Arizona State. I had a great career. I was ready to move on, but unfortunately, I didn't get drafted again. My baseball career ended, and I started working at a family business as a receptionist for two reasons. One, I didn't want to be put in a senior executive role, because my daddy owned the company. And two, I wasn't sure if what I learned playing baseball was transferable. I learned all these skills, discipline, collaboration, teamwork, but I didn't know how it would work in the real world. So I started off as a receptionist there at LearnIt, which is a live learning platform right up your alley. We do classes on how to use Microsoft Excel and all the way through teaching leadership. And I kind of worked my way up. And so that was about 30 years ago. I taught classes, I did sales, I learned from other people, I got mentors, and I've been CEO of LearnIt, a live learning platform, for over 25 years now. And we've upskilled over 2 million people over the past 3 decades. So that is a very short version of my journey to where I'm at today.
Amazing. You see, very, very inspiring. And for folks who are still stuck in imposter syndrome, when they get to listen to our conversation, you see, it will help them really, really good. I tell you. Okay, that's gonna lead to the very first question. All right. So let us talk about this imposter syndrome for a moment. You mentioned that you built a system around it, and now for folks who are still stuck in this stuff, and you know, how can they come out of it? How can they overcome that imposter syndrome?
Yes. So first thing I'd say to your listeners is we all deal with imposter syndrome at some point in our life. And whether you want to call it imposter syndrome or limiting beliefs or having self-doubt. So I've built a 4-part framework that I've used my whole life, and it started with baseball, and I've used it throughout my business career. And step number 1, Elijah, is really looking at what are you afraid of? Okay, let's use it. Let's say that I'm afraid of public speaking. All right, and I get an opportunity to go speak somewhere. So I call it purposeful awfulizing. What is the worst case scenario? So let's say if I go and accept this opportunity for a keynote speech, the worst case scenario is I fall flat on my face. Okay, that's the worst thing that could happen. I'll get back up, and it's something I can overcome. So once you realize and you label your fear, like, okay, I'm afraid of failure because I don't want to embarrass myself. So that's step number 1. I know I can overcome that. I can survive that. Step number 2 is work hard. There's really no replacement for hard work. There's no hacks. There's no shortcuts. You have to be willing to put into the work and go all in if you want to be successful at something. Step number 3, Elijah, is deliberate practice. Now, if I'm giving a presentation and I'm really nervous about a specific slide or maybe a part of the breakout, then I got to find ways to practice that over and over and over. It's really easy to procrastinate and put things aside and not do, focus on different things. But deliberate practice means focus on something time and time again, whether it's role playing, whether it's looking in the mirror and saying it. And then when you get better at that, find something else to practice on. So I've worked hard, I've put in a deliberate practice. And then the final step is let go and learn. Just go up there and do it. When it's time to step on the stage, or even an hour and a half before, stop thinking about the technical aspects. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Stop with all that, because, have confidence in yourself that you've put in the work, you've practiced, get up there, do your very best, have fun with it, and learn and let go. You're either going to fall flat on your face or you're going to knock it out of the park. Whatever it is that happens, it goes back to what we're talking about. It provides you a learning opportunity. You could learn from whatever you did, and you could use that for next time. And what I think a lot of people don't do is they don't give themselves enough credit for even trying things. Give yourself a pat on the back. Hey, I went out there, I stuck my neck out there, I got out of my comfort zone. And because of that, I think that if you learn and let go and you use this framework, it helps you overcome imposter syndrome, because it's okay to fail, but a lot of times people won't fail if they get out of their comfort zone and they actually try something.
Beautiful. That was very insightful and easy to understand. Thank you for sharing it that way. Okay, so let us look at the difference or the differences between a learn it all and a know it all. Can you talk to us about it?
Sure. So we all have friends and coworkers who are know-it-alls. Okay, so a know-it-all is somebody who has all the answers. They have it all figured out. Anything you tell them, they don't want to hear about it because their way is the right way. And I think that that's pretty limiting in itself, because on the flip side, you have a learn-it-all. A learn-it-all is somebody who, Elijah, is open-minded, is flexible, is curious. Curious is such an important thing, whether it's in the business world or raising kids. There's always got to be a better way to do things. So learn-it-alls come to every conversation like, okay, let me hear what this person has to say and be open-minded. And it goes back to exactly what you said at the beginning of this conversation. It's being open to knowledge and open to trying and doing things differently if better opportunities present themselves.
Thank you for explaining that. You see, I was wondering, okay, could it be what I thought? And okay, it came out that way. Beautiful. Okay, so how do you build a learning culture within an organization?
Great question. Now, when I talk about a learning culture within an organization, whether it's a small business or a large enterprise, I'm not specifically referring to just formal training, going and taking classes, which is obviously part of it. But I'm talking about a culture where people have the psychologically safety to be able to try things and do things and fail and learn from them. And the first step to building a learning culture starts with leadership. So modeling the behavior that you want others to have, right? So as a senior leader, I need to be able to be vulnerable and humble enough to say, hey, look, I tried something. It didn't work out. I learned from it. I'm going to, here's my experience. And it also means, participating in formal trainings, whether it's taking a class or having coaching, and leading by example. And from there, that's the first step to building a learning culture. From there, you want to have champions within your organizations, people who maybe who will take accountability and own the program, and invest in people time and money in giving them the opportunity and space to take classes, to learn. And then finally, maybe pair people up with different people in the organization. Let's say I'm in accounting, put them in touch with somebody who are in sales, and maybe even do cross mentoring, right? Give people an opportunity to learn from each other, so that people are going into work every day saying, hey, look, I want to be creative. I want to be curious. I want to learn better ways to do things and share my ideas without feeling like, my boss is a know-it-all and tell me I don't want to hear about it. And so people come to work every day and they become more than a paycheck player. Like, they really care about what they're doing. And when you do that, you create a culture where people are engaged and participate and are always looking to make your organization better. And to me, that is a learning culture.
I got that too. Okay, we still have two more questions to go. All right. So for leaders who are trying to, balance humility with confidence, what is your advice? Like, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I think that's important. And especially, Eliza, for new leaders. Say I'm recently promoted into a new manager position for the first time. And a lot of times, and it goes back to maybe imposter syndrome, you think to yourself, do I even belong here? Am I able to do this? Well, how to balance humility with confidence is, it's okay to say, I don't know, right? It's okay. I don't have the answer to this, or let's work together to figure this out. But what you don't want to be is so vulnerable all the time that you're like, well, I don't have an answer for this. I don't know what to do. I feel sorry for myself, because if you do that, then people are going to be like, well, why should I follow this person anyways? Because I can't trust them that they're going to be able to execute and get the job done. So great leaders who balance humility with confidence are like, hey, look, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to bring in people who do, and I'm going to work with them, and we're going to figure out, and we're going to get this done. And so they're confident. So it's balancing humility with, being open to learning, but also to stand up and say, I have the ability to make this happen and execute and get things done the way that we need to get it done here in our organization.
And I think all leaders needs to cultivate this way of functioning and operating. I got that.
Right. And I think that's important, because if leaders don't and they come across as inauthentic, then people are going to have a hard time trusting and wanting to work for them anyways.
Just it, I tell you. So I'm just so curious right now about the Learn It All we talked about. So, what does a Learn It All organization, what does it look like? Can you share some of this?
Yes, for sure. So a Learn It All organization, and this kind of goes back to my sports playing days, right? Where I played for the best teams I played for. They held each other accountable. They didn't need to be micromanaged and have a leader tell them, hey, make sure you hit your deadlines, make sure you get all this done. They hold each other accountable. They have clear goals and vision of what they need to get done, and they know how to execute. And if something doesn't go well, they take accountability for it. A Learn It All culture is of somebody who's like, look, I'm not afraid to admit that I made a mistake, because my boss isn't going to get so mad at me that there's going to be repercussions. I'm going to take accountability for it. I'm going to figure out how to get it done. So they don't play the victim role, and that they have a strong curiosity. I heard you mention curiosity a couple times. I think that whether you're an individual or coaching a team or leading an organization, that you have that curiosity of, you're always asking yourself, how can I get better at this? Especially what I like to add to that now over the last year is, how can I get better at this leveraging AI? AI is so powerful these days that you got to have that curiosity on, not only is you have the human talent and knowledge, but how can I use AI to get better at my job, to help our organization and for us both to grow?
That's a great word, human intelligence. And hey, hi, I got that. Okay, so to bring this to an end, Damon, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
So the final thought I want to leave your audience with is that if I can do it, you can do it. If you want to set your sights and you want to become a leader, you want to be an entrepreneur and open your own business, to do so, I like to say, great leaders aren't born or made. They are constantly in the making. There's always room to get better, and there's always room to learn and execute. So do that, please. If you want to connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn at Damon Lembi. I post a lot there, and I'd love for you to reach out to ask me questions. I also have a podcast called the Learn It All Podcast, which I love doing. So check out the Learn It All Podcast. And finally, on my website, learnit.com, if you came and say that you found me through this show, I will give you a complimentary 200. Email me. Well, it's best to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message on LinkedIn, and you can take a free class, whether it's around emotional intelligence, or if you want to learn how to get better at Excel or presentations, please reach out to me.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that.
Well, thank you, Ivy.
Yeah, so that's going to be the end of the show, Damon. Thank you for coming, and thank you for educating us. You see, I truly appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. It was wonderful to be here.